All right. Well, let's start with this panel together, which is divided in a few themes. And the first theme is around understanding the digital customer. Now, we have the luxury today that for this panel, we have 3 professionals from 3 different industries. And the first question is, based on your own industry, how have digital customers' expectations evolved in the last years? And what strategy are your brands putting on to stay ahead of those? Anyone would like to kick off this panel with an answer?
Sure. Yes, I think the customer G-stars, particularly and also digital customers, evolved significantly over the years. Of course, when we started e-commerce, it's new, it's exciting. Customers, they explore, they innovate, and yeah, they just discover on their own. I think nowadays it's much more accustomed, especially after COVID, of course. It became the #1 platform to actually buy and sell clothing. And with that, the customers also become much more acquainted with all the services that are offered. Nowadays, a customer is expecting anything related from a payment method. They want to pay whatever preferred method they want. And they expect the best delivery service, sometimes even within a few hours. If they want to return something, they expect it to return to a distribution center, but also particularly in a store. And yeah, as a brand, you try to balance those things and to cater to the needs that the customer wants. And it's continuously evolving.
Well said. Anything to add on this, Alexandre?
I mean, if I just think of the hospitality industry, it has been changing so much for the past couple of years. I think there's a pre and post pandemic era. I mean, if you think about it, just in the hospitality, right? Whenever you book your holidays and stuff, the price has more likely kind of double. In some price range, maybe triple. If you think of your hotels, if you think of your plane tickets, train tickets, etc. So, you know, people now spend a lot more money on their travel, so they usually travel closer to their homes, but for less amount of times, but for more amount of money. So we had to really tailor our product and strategy based on that. And I would say pre-pandemic, we had a big strategy on acquiring new customers, and now it's all about retention, right? I mean, in the industry itself, right? If you think of Booking, Expedia, etc., everybody's pushing for mobile applications, and we're just talking about it, where if you're using the app, for example, Booking app, pay less amount of money, etc. But if you go on all.com, you'll get better discount. Just remember this.
Thanks for the tip, Alexandre. Nice. What about Intelcom, Eva?
Yeah, so of course I would totally recognize also on the e-commerce side and on the e-care side, which is actually more the service provider. I think our customers do expect to find their solution quite easily. And going into the future, it's even proactively, right? So we need to just solve the problem already, making sure that they just are confirmed that the problem is solved. So I think that will be a great transformation coming up, and well, actually needed to actually keep those customers happy.
Nice, thanks. So a lot of things to look into here, and I think it's a nice transition to our next theme, which is around leveraging data. Now, this is the moment, crowd, where I'm going to get you to do a bit of work. But first question for the panel so that they have time to think on this. How many of you feel that your organization effectively leverages customer insight to drive business growth? And then I want us to talk about the challenges that you face towards that. So while they're thinking about this, crowd, let's get the phone out of your pocket, scan the QR code. Wow, we do feel like a star a little bit right now, don't we?
Yeah.
With all those phones pointing at us. That's a nice feeling. All right, I'll leave you some time to get into the Slido because I want to make sure you're hearing those answers as well. Okay, so yeah, you cannot see if you don't turn, but there are three options. Is it medium, low, or high? We are pretty on the average right now, medium. Let's see how does that evolve. As they are still filling in the answers, anything you would like to share maybe around the challenges you faced in your own organizations?
I mean, first of all, I think just putting definition on what does it mean to actually leverage data. I think every company has a different definition of it. Everybody has different levels about it. For us, it's really about, how do we make sure that the strategy that we have, the planning, the execution is done properly. And that's actually how we use data. So if it's, for example, our strategy is going to be most likely business touch points. But whenever we're going to talk about things like content score, it's all about going to be, is our planning going in the right direction according to our strategy? And obviously then later on, if the execution of the plan going in the right direction compared to strategy. And based on that, I would say in some areas, we're good. I think our strategy is like super data-driven. Yet our execution can still, we can do a better job.
Nice. Well, if you need tips for your strategy, make sure that you have a chat with Alexandre as well afterwards. I'm sure he has some great tips for you. Anything from your side that comes to mind, Eva, Sui?
Yeah, I think based on when I look at KPN, we have a lot of data, especially getting it and using it. We do a lot on the front end as well, but connecting the front end more to the back end, to our network and every information that we get over there, and then using it to help our customers. I think we do have a lot of use cases, but we need to improve. So it's more connecting all the data together.
Yeah, which is something you've already mentioned as well, and during your previous presentation, connecting the data, the omnichannel, seamless experience. Sui, anything to add?
I think for G-Star, I think we leverage data quite well in the digital department. I think digital by nature or by design is quite data-driven, and we're accustomed to it. I think there's still a lot to be done or gained if we start to leverage customer insights into, for instance, supply chain efficiencies or even more merchandising topics, which are still a little bit siloed. And if I think about challenges, what really comes to mind recently is really data privacy. And with that data legislation, everything around it, we used to be able to track customers through platforms throughout the customer journey, which is becoming more hindering at the moment. And that also requires more complexity to your data. I mean, if you can't track it easily with the cookie, you have to come up with different solutions. Yeah. And how do you stitch that together with existing data sources? That's really becoming the biggest challenge and what I foresee as well in the future.
Yeah, and I'm sure lots of you in the crowds are facing the same challenges as well. I would like to now go to some more industry-like questions. We have quite a few different industries we've seen as well in the crowd today, and quite a few retailer/fashion ones. So Sui, I'm going to go back to you. We all know how the customer journey in fashion is often non-linear, right? From discovery to purchase phase. How do you connect the different data point from the shop to the social media to the website to make sure you have that holistic view on what do your user needs?
In the past years, we've invested a lot in our customer data platform, in our CDP, which is actively now connecting all of the data sources that we have, which means all of our acquisition channels, all our social media channels, the Googles and Metas of the world, combining that with on-site behavior. I think that was really a game changer for us, able to connect the customer journey end to end. But on top of that, I think it also connects with what we do in store. So it really connects with the CRM ability to recognize what is a customer really buying online and what's the customer doing in store. How do they change that, and connecting that even further down to the customer service level to understand, what is driving customer service calls? Yeah. How can you connect that to what their purchase behavior was? Yeah. How did they work through the funnel? To really understand not only how can you solve the problem for customer service, but also what do you maybe need to change in the beginning of the funnel or of the journey that to prevent actually that service call. And I think that for us really is a big game changer. But also the risks and challenges of what Mo mentioned earlier as analysis paralysis, going retail into the detail, losing yourself there, where I think the biggest opportunity is to zoom out, to put basic and simple KPIs to it, to understand where you actually need to zoom in.
I I think that's an always difficult one, especially when we're in companies, when sometimes we can work in silo, everybody related to his own KPI. How do we go about having that big picture? Still is a difficult thing on a day-to-day, this one. Now, Alexandre, question for you. Obviously, Accor is a global brand. How do you go about balancing global needs of a brand like Accor, but as we all know as well, the different specificities that local market can have? We know in some countries we're going to have a different way of consume content, different needs. How do you manage this balance between the two?
I think first of all, it was recognizing that that was something necessary. I think that's something that you quite hear in so many businesses, that we want to go local versus global, because you can use some kind of personalization, etc. For us at the beginning, it was making sure that it was coming from the data. So making sure that whenever we would analyze and split our customers, let's say for example per region, we'd actually see different maybe conversion rates or type of behavior. And that's actually something that we noticed. Our American market behaves really differently from the European one versus the Asian. It's maybe because of local specificities, but also based on the location of the user. We don't always show the same brands, if that makes sense, right? We have some American brands in the States, like Fairmont, etc. In Europe, we're going to have Ibis, Novotel, Sofitel, and in Asia, some other brands. And they don't have the same average basket, so potentially it brings different people. So for us, it was super important to recognize that. And how we're dealing with it? Well, we have a global platform where we take some global decisions to optimize it. And we have also some local teams that are trying to do running many A/B tests on what are the specificities for their own customers. So we're trying to both advance in the same direction. And by testing, we're trying to make sure that we're taking the right decisions.
And then for those local markets that you're having, do they then have some specific part of the website that they are allowed to change, test, experiment? Is how you splitting it?
Yeah, so right now this is how we actually doing it. So we have a global team that manage the booking funnel, and we have regions teams that can actually change right now the homepage, offers, etc. I think later on we'll want to open it to, we'll want to enable anyone to test anything anywhere. We're not there yet. We're transforming really our experimentation team to enable everyone to test on our tool, and we're trying to become like a center of excellence where we empower product owners, business owners to test their own ideas. But it's a long journey to be able to do that, right? But hopefully soon enough.
The light at the end of the tunnel, yeah.
Yeah.
At least if the will is there, that is already a good first start,
totally.
I would say.
Totally.
Thanks, Alexandre. One question for you, Eva. I hope your voice is still there. I can hear it is still there. You've done this presentation, of course, around the seamless experience from offline to online. You talk about AI and how you're starting to use it or how you're using it. How do you ensure that the customer experience is consistent between basically the physical challenge and the physical channels and the digital channels that you have through the customer care? Do you have some examples maybe around that?
Yeah, so of course we also come from a world where everything was split, right? So everything had its own IT systems, of course. So we have, like in the last couple of years, we started to integrate. So we are integrating the whole shop area, which means that our retail stores have the same shop as our online. Customer service the same. Our engineers as well, if they are upselling. So I think that was one of the biggest parts where we could integrate everything and also integrate our data. So that helps. And what we try to do right now is get even more real-time data running through that system, making sure that we always know what the customer did before, if they call right after, or when they call a day later. I'm not that worried. But I think getting into the real time is a really big thing. Yeah.
And how do you go about that, getting to that real-time data?
Yeah, well, we have experts for that. I think one of them is in this room as well.
You can raise your hands. We'll come ask you questions afterwards.
No, but yeah, so we're working on it. What we do is we try to do every feature that we build or innovate, we actually make omni-channel features. So that helps us create a base platform, making sure that everything we do, we can do online, but we can also do via human-assisted channels. And then getting that real-time data is actually, it's shortening the chain, which goes all the way to the network and then all the way back to the front line. So yeah,
Amazing. And I'm sure that's something you can echo as well a little bit, Sui, into the connection here. Nice. Thanks, Eva. I think that's a topic that is going to talk for everybody here, which is the barrier to data-driven culture. If you're all sitting in this room today, it means you all care for being data-driven, I believe. But it's not always the case in our company sometimes. So here I have another slide for you. In your experience, what's the biggest barrier to implementing a data-driven culture within your digital strategy? Now, we're going to see it as a word cloud. So if you write a whole paragraph, we might not see it too well, but maybe some good buzzwords here. While they are filling this, anything that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I think it's maybe a bit of a boring answer, but I tend to believe that for us, and what I've experienced in the past, the biggest barrier is really not having a single source of truth. It's even in the fashion industry, which is semi-creative, like on a scale of creative industries to fully corporates, I think it's relatively creative. And even there, I noticed that also the creatives, they're not scared anymore of the word data. People like to use data, and they would really like to use it and implement it in what they do. Yeah. But it becomes a really big barrier if they don't trust the data, or if they have data that's telling story A versus data that's telling story B. And yeah, people just tend to fall back on what they know and old habits. I think this is definitely one of the biggest barriers to overcome.
Any tips to reassure the teams on data confidence?
I think it's a long-term game. Invest really heavily in your data quality. Invest heavily in training, in education. Make people understand how to utilize it. Try to create as well a single data tooling. For instance, we onboarded Tableau at one point, and that's for us always a single source of truth. Yeah. We always refer back to that Tableau dashboard, instead of in the past where we have spreadsheets there, or Tableau there, GA4 there, or that's what really worked for us, and I think that's really what really made our CDP as well a game changer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the enablement and telling people how to find it is of course going to be a key here. Looking at what we have here in the back, so as blockers, I heard a few laughter as well while you were talking. I'm not sure if it's for management or money or hippos and zebras, but lack of maturity, time, trust, what you were mentioning, legacy system. There are a few barriers, I think. So that's a nice one. Yes, we have a question in the crowd, I think. Can somebody bring a mic? This is live performance. Here we go. We need the microphone so that people online can hear you as well. Here it is.
I just really want to know, what is a zebra? I know what a hippo means, but what does a zebra mean?
Anybody can answer? Is that so? We need to say that in the mic because people online need to hear it.
Zero evidence-based, really arrogant. Thanks, Tom.
Nice one. Thanks. Teamwork. Nice. Any other barrier, Alexander, Eva, that you face?
I mean, something that's quite interesting. If you ask yourself, if you ask anyone, do you want to be data-driven? Everybody's going to say yes. So first of all, it's a really strange problem, right? If I give you a really consultant-like answer, the way we actually approach things is really looking at the 3 Ps and in digital transformation. And when you think of that question, it's going to be people, platform, and process. We started by trying to solve the platform issue with that question, which is having a tool that is easy to use, that everybody can use, etc. So that's why We have you guys, Content Square, we have a Chameleon, etc. So we have some great platforms, really easily accessible. We're trying to change our people, so by training them and creating those kind of center of excellence, so we can empower anyone, anytime, and really train our newcomers. You know, we're a company with 3,500 people now, so obviously you have lots of people going and coming, so they need to be trained on our processes every time. And obviously at the end of the day, also having some strict process on how to use our tools and you know, how to apply things, which really enable us to, you know, move at a different scale. So those three things really empowered us to kind of break this barrier.
Yeah, I'm hearing again some keywords here that we also mentioned, Alexander. So I think there might be a source of truth here into this. Eva?
I'm just trying to stay out of the Safari, so that's one. And yeah, I think I totally recognize the words here behind it. So I think the single source of truth is just really important. And for us as well, we have so many systems, trying to collect that all, making sure that there is a single source. And also make the effort of actually getting that data in the same way, like as a output is really one of the bigger things. Yeah, and make sure everyone has their own accountability on it.
Yeah. Thanks, Eva. I'm looking at the time, and it really flew by. I still had quite some questions, but I'd like to give the chance to the crowd to ask some more questions to our panel. Any questions? Or do you just want to come on stage and have a chat with us, maybe? No questions? We have a question.
Hi. We saw it already in the presentation of Van de Velde as well. Something that's challenging for them and also for the brand I'm working for is branding versus web performance and data-driven decisions. I'm looking at Sui, who is also working for a big fashion brand. How do you cope with that? Because it's a clear struggle for our side to still manage to have a very nicely branded visual website, but not lose on speed, for example, as we saw in other presentations as well. So maybe you have tips for that.
Yes, I think it's a very common problem. We have the discussion almost daily, brand versus trade, for instance, or CX versus zero, whatever you want to call it. But it's a very known challenge. I think what really works well for us, although we didn't solve it either, is setting clear areas where it's really trade-driven versus where it's really brand-driven, and making that really explicit. So, for instance, there are areas which for trade are so crucial, such as the checkout, that cannot be touched. That's just clear. Whatever a brand is saying about making it a better experience, it cannot be touched. And the same goes for branded landing pages. We are not going to place anything there that's going to be discount-driven. We're not going to place any badges there on the products. And making that really clear distinction of where does area brand start and where does it end, and where does trade really start and end. And of course, anything in between is always going to be an ongoing discussion where you need to collaborate. But at least we really set really clear from the beginning, this is untouchable, but we're also not going to touch that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other question?
Thank you. I was wondering for G-Star Row, you said you're using a customer data platform. Are you able to have both offline and online data on it?
Yes, to a certain extent, yes. Of course, all offline data which can be captured, we try to do. We're trying to make it more advanced as well. We use RFID techniques in our stores as well, which is not available yet in our customer data platform. But that could also bring very interesting insights where you can compare visual merchandising in the store versus online merchandising on the website. And how do these things correlate?
Perfect. And is it okay to ask which customer data platform are you using? Or
I'm not sure if I can answer that.
Okay.
Yeah. We use Bloomreach.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
We need to be compliant, right? Yeah. It's important.
One more question. I see a question there. Danique, you're getting those steps in today.
I have a question for Eva. You talked about seamless online and offline experiences for the customers, but I'm wondering, how do you tackle this if the customers are not identified? Can you do something for them as well, or are you just stuck if they have an online experience but you don't know who they are?
Yeah, so I think especially when we talked about the cookieless world and everything that's going on, I think that is a very big question, right? So yeah, so do we recognize everyone online? No, we don't. So we try to also look in how much do we want to do web and app, and can we nudge them also towards more app-based, so we are pretty sure that they are logged in. So that's one of the things. And the other thing is how do we make sure that we look into that scenario? So it's like a rainy day scenario. So what happens when you're not logged in? How can you find everything that you want? I think the biggest thing is that we are actually facilitating those customers, but we're not having a lot of context to give them to the offline world. So that's the dissatisfier. Yeah.
Thank you.